Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bryony and I'm one half of the Indecisive Readers. Today I'm here to talk about 21 of the books I'm hoping to read in 2021. These aren't the only books I'm hoping to read, but they are the 21 I am prioritising. They're not going to include anticipated releases. I am doing a separate video for them. It won't have come out by the time this video goes up, but I will link it down below when it does come out. Although it won't include any anticipated releases, if I do have them as an arc, I will kind of include them because obviously I have to read them before the release date. So yeah, let's just dive right in and see what they are. So the first on my list is The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon. I do have this as an advanced reader copy through NetGalley. I'm so excited to read it. It's the fourth book in the Bourne season series, which I am rereading at the moment. I'm really enjoying. Sam has read The Mask Falling and said it was wonderful. So many other people have said it ends on a cliffhanger, which I'm frightened for, but really excited to read it. I'm hoping to read it first in 2021. One, to start on a high, and two, because I want to get it read before the release date, but I'm very excited to read it. Another arc I have through NetGalley is Before I Saw You by Houghton, something. It's a romance, but kind of a romance based around the couple not seeing each other, which I think is a really interesting concept and I think should be really fun. It should be more kind of the romance that I'm interested in, but it is a romance, so I am a little bit hesitant about it, but I've chosen it, so I'm hoping I will like it. But yeah, I think that comes out in February, so I am hoping to read it quite early in the year as well. Another arc I have physically. I wasn't aware I was going to get it. The publishers just sent it to me. It's not the kind of like genre I generally read, but it is a historical fiction, which is something I am sometimes interested in, so I am looking forward to it. And that is While Paris Slept by Ruth Druart. I think this is kind of based in the aftermath of the Second World War, and I don't really know a lot more about it, but I am excited to read it. It comes out in March, so I'm probably hoping to read it in about February, but this should be interesting. Another arc I got sent by the publishers I'm super excited to read because everyone's really hyped up about it, and so I am too, and that is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is a retelling of kind of Greek myths, I think specifically Theseus and the Minotaur. I think it should be really interesting. It comes out in April. It looks fantastic. It's kind of got Circe, Silence of the Girls vibes, and I think it's going to be really good, and I can't wait to get to it. The first four were in order of publication date. The rest are just when I thought of them, I put them down on the list. There is no order to them, but let's just get to them. The first one is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. This actually hasn't come out yet. I believe it doesn't come out until February, but it's not technically an advanced reader copy. It did come with a fairy loot box. I think it looks really pretty. The sprayed edges look wonderful. I have apparently bent one of the pages in trying to get a thumbnail. The cover looks wonderful. It just looks really shiny, and it sounds like a rich and immersive African fantasy, and I think that sounds really good. Because it doesn't come out until about February, I am hoping to read it early in the year because then I can give a review before it actually comes out. Next on my list is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is the sequel to A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I read in June. Abby from Pets and Pages said that she hadn't read it yet, and I thought I hadn't read it either. And I said to her, do you want to buddy read it? And she said yes, so I just ordered it straight away. I am a little bit frightened of it because it is quite chunky. I realised it was 69 chapters long, which amused me because it's a sexy book and it's 69 chapters. And the last chapter was only like 2 pages long. I'm pretty sure she just added it for fun. Yeah, I'm a bit frightened of it because it's meant to be so sexy and also because it's a romance, but it is an enemies to lovers romance, and I found that when it's done well, I quite enjoy those. So I am looking forward to getting into this, and I feel like having a buddy read will help me get through it. So the next one on my list is also by Sarah J. Maas. That is Crescent City, and I think Sam owns it physically. He brought it for both of us, but I don't have hold of it, so I don't know whether I will borrow that or get the ebook, but I think it's meant to be quite good. It's had very good reviews. Problem is, it is once again quite chunky and I am a little frightened of it, but I think it's going to be quite interesting because it's a long fantasy, and so I think that will give me time to kind of dive into the world. The next one I have on my TBR has been on my TBR for about 5 years, and that is Fyre by Angie Sage. This is the final book in the Septimus Heap series, and at this point I'm not delaying it because it's the final book. I know I want to read it. I know I want to see how the story ends, but what I'm delaying is this version of the book. So this is like the new reprints, but the original ones I had illustrations, and as you can see there are no illustrations in this, which I think is a shame. And because it's the final book, I feel like they might have some new illustrations, and so I want to read that the first time I'm reading it so I can get the full experience. But I haven't got that copy at the moment, so I don't quite know how to get to it. I don't know whether I'm gonna like buy a cheap one. That's what my plan is, but it's not available, and so I am delaying this. I am also hoping to do it as like a reading vlog so you can get like my experience as I read it for the first time. I'm just very excited to get to it, but also again frightened. Then I have Queen of Coin and Whispers by Helen Corcoran. This was one of my most anticipated books of 2020, and I was really disappointed when the shipment of this kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And then I didn't get to it because I ran out of time, didn't quite put it on TBRs and things, and it just wasn't my priority. But I would really like to read it in 2021, and therefore it is on this list. It's meant to be kind of a young adult version of the Politics in Priory, just without the dragons and with the gays, and I'm very excited to read it. The author is really nice online, and I think this will just be such a fun book to read. Then I have What's a Girl Got to Do by Bourne. This is the final book in the Spencer Club series, which I have been reading on and off for a few years. I read the second one this year and thought it was wonderful. I was so glad to be back in the world, but I haven't had the chance to pick this up yet, but I know I will really enjoy it when I do. I think this is kind of based around the main feminist, the one who's like loud and proud feminist, and so I think this is going to be a really interesting book. I don't quite know what she deals with in it, but Bourne always deals with really interesting topics, and so I'm sure this one will be too. For another buddy read, I'm hoping to read The Child of the Prophecy by Juliet Murillo, which is the third book in the first trilogy of the Seven Waters trilogy. I believe it's kind of technically two trilogies. I'm buddy reading this with Sophie from A Redhead Reads. I'm frightened of reading it because I really didn't enjoy the second one, but I want to know how it ends. But also what I don't like about these is each book follows a new set of characters. So like you spend 500 pages, 600 pages getting to know the old characters, and then they just die, or it follows their children, and I'm like, but I like the last people. I really didn't enjoy the last one because it was so misogynistic, but Sophie like promised me her other books aren't, and like I know that from experience, but it was just very annoying, and so I'm hoping this one's going to be better, but we will see. Another on my list is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. This is the first book in this series, but the sequel comes out in January. But I'm hoping to reread this in January so then I can read the sequel. I reread the blurb of this and thought it sounded so interesting. I remember really enjoying it when I read it, but I did read it last November, so I know I need to reread it if I want to read the sequel, and so I put this on this TBR because then it will chase me to read both of them, hopefully. The next on my list is Gender Games by Juno Dawson. Juno Dawson is a trans woman who's also an author. She's written some young adult books, and this is a kind of memoir but discussing gender, and I think it sounds really, really interesting because I think it's not just about gender being problematic for trans people but also for everyone because it's so kind of rigid, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I might suggest to my feminist book club that we read it because I think it'll be really fun and interesting and poignant, and I think it just sounds so good. The next on my list is Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I read The 10,000 Doors of January by the same author last year, thought it was amazing. I'm hoping to read this on recommendation from Ashley at A Frolic Through Fiction. She basically sent all her Patreons 3 book recommendations, and this was one of those, and I think it's going to be really fun. It's feminist, it's feminist, witchy, and by an author I know I like already, and so I'm really excited to read it. I don't currently physically have it, but it has turned up at my local bookshop, so I'm hoping to pick it up on Monday. Another recommendation from Ashley was Hag, Forgotten Folktales Retold. It's a collection of folktales retold, and I think it's going to be really interesting because it sounds like it's not your like typical fairy tales, so I think this will be interesting to see what stories they are, how they're retold, whether they're kind of dark and witchy and things, but I think it's going to be really interesting. I like the cover, it feels very witchy. It's kind of like toadstools and plants and coffins and creepy things, and it just looks wonderful. My final recommendation from Ashley is perfect for like a feminist like me, and that is Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. This is actually the Waterstones exclusive edition, which I'm really excited to own because it's signed, which is why I brought it, with a lady with tits and hairy armpits. But it's also got like, I don't know if it's sprayed edges because like it's so reflective I can see myself in them, but they are wonderful. I'm very excited to read it. I don't know what it's about, but it's a feminist non-fiction and that's very me, so I'm excited to read this once I can get to it. The next one on my list is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is kind of one of those classic book community books. Everyone seems to have read it apart from me, and so I'm excited to read it. I have a paperback version of this as well. This is the collector's edition I found from a charity shop for £1, which is wonderful because like it's got that and it's got that and it's got those and it's just so pretty, so I had to pick it up even though I'd never read it before. But I'm very excited to read it. I want to see why everyone likes this series. I've just started, or I'm about a quarter of the way through, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab, which is my first Schwab book, and it's wonderful. And I know this is going to be so different because this is like kind of young adult and the other one's adult, but it's really interesting and it's making me see why she's such a popular author, so I'm excited to read kind of one of her OG books. Then we have Cinderellas Dead by Kaylin Bayron. This is a queer retelling of Cinderella focusing around a black girl, and I think that sounds so interesting, something I haven't read before or not read a lot of. I do own it. Sam is currently borrowing it. I don't think he's reading it, so I may steal it back off him. I love the cover. I think it's wonderful. I think the story sounds so interesting. I like the kind of queerness. I like the black character being put in the centre, and I'm just very excited to read it, and probably would have read it if Sam didn't have it at this point. Then I'm also hoping to read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a book that my younger sister has just finished and a lot of other people have read and recommended, and so I'm very excited to read it. It's something I haven't really explored before, that being YA thriller, and it's meant to be written in a really interesting way, and I love books that are written in a non kind of prose, is that the right word? Non-normal way, non-linear. I don't know, it's written in kind of notes and podcasts, and I think that's going to be really interesting to read, and I don't know who done it, so I want to know who done it. Then we have Daughter of the Blood by Anne Bishop. This is a, I believe, matriarchal feminist kind of fantasy. It's not one I've heard of before, but then my dad said he brought it because it was one of his favourite books, which surprised me. Not because my dad isn't necessarily a feminist, but because that's not kind of a blokey book. But then I kept seeing it around everywhere, and so I'm really interested to read it. It sounds like a dark fantasy. It sounds like The Priory in The Priory of the Orange Tree, and it just sounds so good. And also I want to read it because it's like something that my dad's enjoyed, so I want to see kind of why he's enjoyed it, if that makes sense. And yeah, I'm excited to read it and see what it's all about. And the final one on this list is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I don't know how to say her name. I don't also know what this one's about. I believe it's kind of a dark witchy romance, maybe a very sexy romance. I don't know why I've got another sexy book on here, but there's someone I follow on Instagram who recommends this book a lot, and I just want to try it out and see what it's about. It was available at my library. It's not one I would have like picked up myself, but I'm excited to read it. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to try, and you never know, maybe I will like the sexiness. I'm thinking I'm going to include this and A Court of Mist and Fury in my kind of like Bryony tries romance again, but actually try to find romances that I'm interested in. That's my plan anyway. We will see how it works out. But yeah, if you've read any of these books, please let me know if they're good. If they're not good, let me know as well, and I'll like change them for something else. Let me know what books you're hoping to read in 2021. I know I'm quite early in filming this. I don't know when this is going to go out, but I just wanted to film it and knew which books I kind of wanted to read. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!